Hi everyone, thank you for joining the Lidon Report. I'm Arving Gonzalez, and in this episode number 15, we're gonna have very good friend, a Lidon guy who's been with different teams since he was so young, and who has like pretty good stories and pretty good insight also of what's been uh, what does it mean to be like in baseball operations in Dominican Winter League, which is quite different than in the USA. And welcome to the show, Raúl.
Hello, Arvin. Thank you for the warm welcome. A very nice hello to you and all your fans, all the people, all your followers in YouTube and all the other social medias. I'm just glad to be here, and I hope this conversation, this introduction, can be productive as you might expect to.
Of course, absolutely. And thank you for joining me. Raúl González is Gigantes del Cibao assistant general manager. He's also scouting supervisor for the Atlanta Brave. And if you can uh, tell the guys who are listening this or watching this on YouTube, like your beginnings in baseball operations, your first shot, and all of that.
Well, funny that you ask, and it's not actually a coincidence, but different than in most cases, my career started in the Winter League. As you may know, most of the young people in Latin America, they either start working as an area scout for an organization, or they either start in another role, and then they make the cross for. I mean, they add that extra position, that extra experience to work in the Winter League, in their respective countries. In our case, Lidon is the Premier League, and I had the opportunity when I was 21 years old in starting my career in the Dominican Winter League. I started as a baseball ops intern with the Club Atlético Licey under the tenure of then general manager Fernando Ravello and assistant GM Francisco Busto. This was in the 2007 season, and those were my first steps into the league, getting to know the atmosphere, getting to know the how the day to day baseball operations department is run in the Winter League. Obviously, there has been a lot of changes from 2007 to the current times, but that's when it all started. That's when I learned how to deal with contracts. That's when I start making relationship with players, agents, executives from other clubs, meeting coaches, meeting the stadiums, the league, everything related to the circuit as a whole. From there, I joined the Estrellas Orientales as a baseball operations assistant in 2008. Uh, and I started a 9 year trajectory with that organization. I got promoted to be assistant GM 2 years later. And after that, director of baseball operations beginning in the 2013 season until the 2017 season. Um, During that span in 2016, I started working with the New York Yankees as an area scout in the Dominican Republic, specifically covering the east side of the country, meaning everything from Boca Chica to Punta Cana. That was pretty much my area, and I had that position for the following 3 years, all the way through 2018. In 2019, the Yankees offered me an international scouting position to go live in Mexico full time, and that's when I stopped working Lidon for a couple years. I I learned the experience in Mexico. I wanted to have the cultural experience to figure out how was scouting amateur baseball, how was scouting pro baseball in the Mexican League. I have heard so much about it, and I decided to take that step forward. Before that Mexican experience in 2019, I had the opportunity in 2014 to be one of the youngest general managers in the Mexican League with the Piratas de Campeche. That was actually my first, you could say, baseball slash cultural experience, knowing how was Mexico and what Mexican baseball made about. Why it was so special? Why people talk about it so much? The long bus trips, the long flights, crazy work hours, late games, the time difference from our country, everything that goes in the cultural aspect to the sports aspect. Uh, from there, moving forward, uh, I got back to the Dominican Republic in 2020, just right before the pandemic, and still working for the New York Yankees, already in a different capacity. Joined the pro scouting department in the Yankees under the tenure of Dan Geis and Matt Daly, pro scouting directors. And I was with that department for 2 years, 2020 and 2021. It was right at the end of 21, right in the middle of the MLB playoffs, when the Atlanta Braves call in, asked permission, and I joined in as a scouting supervisor for the Dominican Republic of Mexico under International Scouting Director Jonathan Cruz, who I report to directly. And from there, everything has been just grinding, learning, evaluating, trying to help all the area scouts that need my advice, that need my eyes. Um, and that's pretty much a quick briefing. I mean, I'm open to any other questions that you, the followers, may have, but that's just a quick briefing.
Yeah, awesome. Also, thank you for giving us that 15 years of career briefing. It was pretty insightful. I would like to know, is it hard to make it into a baseball operation uh, facility in the DR, in any of the teams?
Yeah, it's hard. As you may know, it's a 16 circuit. It's a 16 league, and it's a very small circle. It's a very small circle. I think the tendencies are changing quite a lot nowadays. I mean, there's so many young people working baseball nowadays in the Winter League. Uh, Look our case, the Gigantes del Cibao. I mean, our general manager is probably the youngest GM in the league, Jesus Mejia, who I
Sure.
report to directly. I serve him in a capacity of special assistant to the GM, mostly helping out with any inside info that he might require, player analysis for transaction purposes, player acquisition in terms of trades, free agent signings, or imports. So Jesus, for being a young guy, he's a guy that listens to pretty much everyone that is around him. So that creates a solid chemistry in a baseball operations department. Now, getting back to your main question, it is tough. It is difficult because there's so many people that are prepared, that are capable nowadays. So many bilingual people, so many people with analytical and statistical knowledge, people that are preparing themselves with scouting certificates, going to private scouting schools, learning how to see the game in a different way. So pretty much the competition is getting tougher and tougher as younger and younger generations are knocking on the door and trying to get their feet into a baseball operations department.
How it was like? Have you seen like the change in the environment? Like you began in a league that in, wasn't that analytic oriented in 2007, and now all it has been through in that decade and a half. Uh, how do you like appreciate the things that I have been introduced to the league?
Well, to be honest with you, it has been a drastical change, a drastical but positive change. Obviously, everything that comes around with the game of baseball nowadays, and it goes all the way from the highest level, Major League Baseball, to the Asian professional leagues, to the Mexican League, independent circuits, to the winter leagues. I mean, it all it's turning out the game into a more of an analysis parameter than anything else. It's pretty much about not just evaluating the game and not just saying how you feel about a play, about a player, about about a situation, about a staff member. It's all about analyzing. Why do you feel it? What type of substance or what type of demonstration can you give us that tells that what you're feeling is true? So, talking about from 2007 when I first saw it to nowadays 2022, where even the rosters, where even the team structure, where even before you sign a player, a free agent, make a trade, everything is about analysis. Everything about is about comparing what the analytics, what the data, what the statistics says, with the scouting reports, with the opinions, thinking about the player's makeup, thinking about the personality, how is it gonna fit in into the environment that we have and the chemistry that we're trying to create and keep it stable. So, I mean, pretty much. I mean, talking about all the modern aspects, technology, and what you just asked as a main question, which was pretty much the analytical part of the game. Everything is about that. Everything goes around that nowadays.
I remember like in one of the first episodes of the podcast, I asked Ben Butler from Baseball America, like in what level he put it on. He told me like between double A, triple A. Did you agree with that?
Well, to be honest with you, I might be a little bit higher. Nowadays, I could probably say that it's a solid AAA level, or like me and Jesus Mejia, the Gigantes del Cibao GM, we have conversations about it all the time. What is the real level of Lidon? I mean, how are we gonna compare that? And we keep mentioning that 4A term to describe the league
Yeah.
because we think that, I mean, you find such a mix of hybrids in terms of the profile of the players that you're gonna face. I mean, you got one offensive squad one day facing one opposite pitcher like Raúl Valdez, mid 40s, crafty left-handed pitcher with a lot of experience, a guy who commands the strike zone, a guy who's got multiple resources, who knows how to pitch in high leverage situations. And then the next day you got a fireballer throwing mid to high 90s with a power slider. And I mean, the capacity of adjustments that the players need to make in this league in order to perform and keep a stable production is tremendous. It's just something that, I mean, it goes way out of hand. You don't see that in the big leagues, for example, because in the big leagues, it's all about video, data, analysis. You got 3 or 4 game series. You got enough time for game preparation. But here in Lidon, you're facing a different opponent every day. You're facing a different 28-man roster every day. So it's like, it's hard to say, but I'll stay with that principle. I mean, I like to call it a 4A environment.
Yeah, you may notice that when most of the main players are non AAA, there are, well, in Mexican Summer League, which is like labeled as AAA, but we know that is a little bit higher because it's more competitive and the age average is way higher than in the two leagues in AAA, and that, yeah, I can totally understand why you said. I want to make like a drastic change now and talk about like your role, like dealing with American players. Most of them are American, like the foreigners. Uh, and I would like to know, like, how is the approach with them? Is most of the times the MLB teams that send prospects or players to Lidon are the teams in Lidon recruiting, or is a mix of both?
Well, to be honest with you, talking from our perspective, from the Gigantes del Cibao perspective, I think that we have made a drastic change in how we profile what can be a productive import in this league. And I'm talking about not just position players, I'm also talking about the pitching. I mean, it's we barely have Americans in our staff. I mean, I think we have 3 guys in our roster. I mean, we go with what we got in terms of guys that are performing in either what we consider a AAA level or a 4A level, like the Mexican League in the summer. And we try to go as deep as we can into evaluating these players. Video scouting, trackman data, talking to the managers, coaches, and other Dominican players playing in that league, so we can get feedback and info on what the guy is, what motivates him. If he's gonna be a guy that is gonna come to the Dominican Winter League and he's gonna try to prove that he can perform, or he's a guy that's not gonna fit into a winning team chemistry. I mean, those are all aspects that we consider and we put in the balance in order to make a decision. But being honest with you, in terms of approaching the import players, It's all about having stable and solid communications. It's all about being available for them. It's all about being honest, showing them that you care, that you want them to make them feel comfortable. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're from the States, if they're from Mexico, from Cuba, from Colombia. Uh, they need to feel that being far away from their countries and coming into the Dominican and trying to produce in what the toughest winter league is, they need to be comfortable. They need to be happy. They need to make sure if they have their families with them that you're thinking and caring about them and their families. And it's all about communication at the end of the day. Just building a trustable relationship, building an honest relationship, and making sure that that everything is solved and everything is in place, that everything is punctual, uh, and that everything is being kept as promised in what the main contract was.
Great. It's been like a bunch of stories about prospects who go to the Lidom and they underperform, and some of them make it to the big leagues and have great careers. Some of them uh, just don't. And there's the other case of players that maybe at the time that they are playing Lidon, they are under the radar, but a couple of years after that, you see them in the big leagues, you are quite surprised or proud, or maybe you are like feeling uh, like you knew it, that he had the talent to make it. Do you Can you share some of that stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can tell you probably one of the most current cases that we got. I mean, just in last year's draft, obviously we went with a strategy, and we thought that we were only going to be able to get one of the two shortstop that we had in our top three play wish list. Uh, Luckily, we were able to get two of the three top players that we had in our top three list. I mean, we ended up acquiring Noel Marte last year as the first overall pick. And then we acquired Leover Peguero, who started the season as our starting shortstop this year. And I think he showed everybody that he's going to be a big league talent. I mean, and not just talking about the tools, not just talking about the talent, not just talking about the hitting or defense, talking about the character, talking about the makeup, talking about what a high leverage athlete is. And that's what, those are all qualities that Leover brings to the table. And, drafting players like that that have big league upside. And then 1 year later, you see them in uniform playing for you. It's one of the pleasures that this job gives you. It gives you a lot more passion from a baseball operations standpoint, because after all the hard work, after analysis, after reading 1,000 reports, talking to 100 people, thinking not just about the tools and any other information that you can find on the internet, but talking about the intangibles. If this guy has good baseball IQ, is this guy makeup legit? Is he going to be a guy that has the opportunity to come and play in December for the team when he's a stable big leaguer? He's going to do it. He's going to put the uniform on. He's going to play 100%. I mean, all those are all questions that we ask ourselves all the time in order to prepare ourselves and the whole staff efficiently before a rookie draft. So, Leover is one of those stories that I just told you. This year's draft, our second pick, Julio Carreras, shortstop from the Colorado Rockies organization. I mean, we had the opportunity to already debut Julio and use him in what we call some key games, some must-win games for us. And his defense and his speed and the high energy that he brings to the table, it didn't let us down. It made us look good as a baseball operations department. Made us look good in front of the fans, made us look good in front of the ownership, made us look good in front of the coaching staff. Because we're sending a message. Hey, we know what we're doing. We know what type of player we're bringing. And seeing those two kids made their debut in the same year, playing a premium position, giving flashes of what the future of that position can be for the franchise. It's something that is super positive for us.
Great. And yeah, there's been like a lot of stories of players, maybe not that much, but also player like unexpectedly. And when I say that word, I'm talking about like the casual fan, not the one who is into that player that then make it to the big leagues. And not only that, but establish himself. And I'm talking like guys like Josh Donaldson, like Nestor Cortez. Another one who surprised me was Jim and Choi. I remember Choi with the Estrellas, and at that time, I don't know, he looked like a little bit inconsistent, but with a good defense on first base, I remember. And then he established himself an everyday player with the Rays.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great comment that you just make. G-Man came to Strayas, and I remember that we had him hitting fifth in the lineup, just behind Tyler White, who ended up being the MVP of the Dominican Winter League that year.
Yeah,
And I mean, we felt proud. I remember that Jose Serra, the GM, and we had conversations about it all the time because we were able to recruit a couple of solid hitters. I mean, consistently and more often than ever, you're gonna keep finding front office staffers from the Dominican Winter League saying that the import acquisition process in this league is a lottery. That it doesn't matter the good numbers, it doesn't matter the reports, it doesn't matter if he's got the best reputation, who recommended him. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a lottery. If they're going to adapt, if they're not gonna get sick with the food, if they're gonna like the culture, if they're gonna like the city of their team they're playing for, if they're gonna like the housing that it was provided to them. So at the end of the day, it's it is a bunch of aleatory reasons that are out there. But I believe that if you go to the intangibles, if you really talk to the player and make sure that's a profile that wants to come down and perform, you got a more positive edge to be successful than to go on the negative side. So G-Man came here to the Dominican Winter League, and G-Man was all about producing, showing the Seattle Mariners organization at that point that he could produce at a high level. He was coming from being an up and down prospect for them. Now ended up developing the power that they were expecting at that time. But he came to the Dominican. He started putting up quality ABs. He was playing a solid to plus defense at first base. He was bringing energy to the clubhouse every day. He was always early there. And, I believe in those type of players because they got something to prove.
when people hear about Lidon and they see the celebration and all of that, but other than that, what's your take on what makes Lidon unique compared to other leagues and specifically MLB?
Oh, man. The uniqueness of this league. I can give you so many reasons. Level of competition, the environment. People keep talking about positively and negatively about the fact that we're only 6 teams and we haven't been able to expand the league to more teams. And they see that as a negative factor. But at the end of the day, if you calculate, it makes it tougher. It makes it a tougher league because you got so much talent concentrated on only 6 rosters, and you're giving every manager, every coaching staff, every front office more depth possibilities to be successful. So it's just, it goes out of hand what you can do. But if we go to what makes this league unique, I will definitely tell you that is the diversification of the talent. You're facing so many different matchups on a quick basis that it makes it tough for you to be stable in terms of being successful.
Great. Finally, I would like to ask you one player or those players that were under your team and that you feel proud about them because they are successful because you think they use Lidon in a proper way to improve stuff like that.
Well, man, there are so many cases, imports and natives, but But if I gotta go with one import historically, I'll definitely go with Evan McLean. Evan was the first player I had the opportunity to hire for Estrellas Orientales in 2008. And for me, he ended up having probably one of the most prominent and successful career for any import in this league. I mean, he had up and downs on his summer ball career, and he managed to reinvent himself more than once to come back and produce, to come back and produce. And he just, I mean, the intelligence, the dedication, the work ethic, the the grinding spirit of an individual like that, it makes you feel proud to go over the edges, defend himself, defend him and pound the table for him because you want to bring him. You want him back every year, no matter the cost. And those type of competitors make you proud when you can have them on your side. Um, Nestor Cortez. It was only probably 1 year that I had him. My last year with Estrellas, 2017 season. But I think 1 year later, he ended up being probably one of the most valuable players for the Estrellas in that historical championship for them. And now, I mean, look at now, he's the living legend of Nasty Nestor. So he's quite a special individual. He's a competitor. He's an athlete. There could be, people that misread him when they first met him, when they first compete against him. But that guy is all about winning. Um, Talking about my experience with the Gigantes the last couple of years. Hmm. Uh, there are a bunch of cases there, but I can talk to you about Hanser Alberto. What I see in Hanser every day, a leader, a true leader, a guy who just kills himself, prepares himself, takes the extra just to perform on both sides of the game, defensively, offensively, but also to be a leader in the clubhouse. Um, and those are some of the cases that I can really just make you a quick recall about them.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining me, Raúl. We were talking with Raúl González, Gigantes del Cibao assistant GM, and Dominican Republic and Mexico Atlanta Braves supervisor. Thanks a lot for sharing all those stories, insights, all that learning with us, and honor it.
Thank you, Arvin, and all your followers. Thank you for the time.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching, for listening. You can subscribe on YouTube or give us a like on Spotify, on Apple Podcast. That would be truly appreciated. And I'm gonna be recording another episode in few more days. And see ya.